If you haven't taken care of your local market over the years since you are successfully catering to foreigners, you will be left behind because they will not come to you just because you're suddenly in need of tapping into the domestic market.
Welcome. Today we have with us Mr. Louis Taylor, founder of an innovative hospitality consultancy, Nullus Ineptias, the Latin term for no nonsense. We will inquire a little more into what went into choosing this fascinating name and the thought behind creating an enterprise that looks at every property, boutique or luxurious large as a unique entity. Louis is an old India hand. He headed the Leela Palace New Delhi as the general manager. He also comes back with an extensive experience of nearly 3 decades spearheading iconic hotels around the world. Louis has spent building his multi-million-dollar entities and capturing 5-star performance ratings, as his profile tells me. Welcome, Louis. It is wonderful to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me.
So let's just get, if I get down to the first thing I want to ask you, what's behind the name? The name is not just fascinating because it's Latin and we don't get to hear that very often in India, but also because it means no nonsense. So take us back into what went into choosing the name for your first enterprise as your hospitality consultant.
Well, first of all, the company was planned for a while, but I'm glad I spent more time on the ground to gain valuable experience. And I think now after 3 decades, I finally can say my barrel is full, at least that part. And I'm ready to go out anywhere in the world and be able now to walk into any asset, any luxury hotel or luxury resort and very quickly can establish what's going on. So when I looked for a name for my company, I thought, a lot of quirky names out there and everything else, but who am I or what's my style? And my style always was no nonsense. I'm a straightforward person. I don't talk around the bushes. I'm a person who gives clear advice and I give direction so that businesses and people can move forward. So I thought no nonsense fits me perfectly. I'm not going in there and have endless meetings to discuss one topic. So I just love it, and I love the name Nullus Ineptias. I thought when I found it, I thought it was perfect.
Absolutely. Do you know Latin very well, or did you go searching for a name that is unusual? How did that happen?
Unfortunately not. I learned a little bit Latin in my childhood when I was an altar boy. But other than that, not really.
You've launched a luxury advisory hospitality company. What went into, what was the thought that led you to setting up this company, setting up this enterprise? Why do you think that hotels require advice to, create a successful model, innovative successful model?
I've seen my share in the last 3 decades. And I've seen companies. I worked for hire consultants, which I obviously don't want to say anything negative about it, but the thing is they have brought absolutely no value to the table by the time they were finished. They were just analyzing what has been analyzed already. So there's no rocket science behind it. There's no real advice. So I can analyze, so there's no big deal. And I felt I'm a huge fan of hospitality. I'm a huge defender of luxury hotels. And I'm even sad if I see a competitor, 5-star luxury hotel, not performing at its peak or having not the reputation it deserves. And there's plenty of hotels around the world who have been at the top and then suddenly now they have vanished for no reason. And I feel I can help. I can help if people or owners, investors or operating companies have luxury hotels where they feel there's a need to get a fresh set of eyes in there. And I would be the right person for that. I can go in there. I don't need an army of people or 2 years to evaluate and then sell you a contract for a retainer for the next 10 years. I go in there like it would be my own hotel. I have enough experience that when I step off the plane, I would walk into this property or in this asset. And it doesn't take me long. It takes me maybe a week or 2 until I understand everything inside out from the physical to the operational, to the administrational, functionality of this property. And then, like what I do always, and I've done in the past, when I take on properties, I normally put them into the top league of hotels in the world. You know, you don't need to repaint a hotel facade. You know, take a look first inside what's going on there. And if you pull the strings right together and you align this business unit correctly, you can be very, very successful. And for me, I'm trying to, or I will give owners afterwards, hopefully, the right formulas that they can be successful for years to come, and not just for a year or two. So we're talking about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, with the recommendation solutions and platforms I provide afterwards.
Amazing. So, Louis, do you want to give us some examples of maybe an instance or two of the hotels you've worked with? What kind of problems did you walk into? What kind of gaps in terms of synergy between different departments, operations, and what are the sort of things you've dealt with? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about it with a few examples from the work you have done till now.
You see, usually I don't want to call being a repairman, but I feel like it a little bit. You know, if it's an existing property, obviously I usually went in there, and then within a very short period of time, I had everything run in one direction, which is needed, and then bring the property to the top. If it's a brand new hotel, I live by a code I've been trained on, which is called the opening at birth. You know, you don't need a soft opening or a trial period after you open hotels. You open it 100% or you don't. You know, you need to know what's going on there. I think when I went to Singapore, I took over an iconic hotel, which had issues in the past with management and everything else. And I don't know what number I was after a few years. But when I came, I was able to bring stability to this business. I was able to pretty much bring the vision of the owner alive and fulfill the vision. The same thing which I did with Leela Palace. I mean, I met Captain Nair, God thanks, I met him before this great man passed. And then he pulled me into the restaurant, just myself and him. We were alone and we had lunch. And the first lunch we had together, he told me about the whole story about the family and life of the Nairs and how it came to that. And then the second lunch, we talked business. I remember at the end of the meal, for dessert, I said to Captain Nair, "I'm really sorry, Captain, but this is no longer your hotel, it's mine." And he just smiled at me because he understood what I meant. And I took ownership. And as soon as I take ownership, it pretty much goes into the right direction.
Absolutely. Louis, when I was reading your profile and some of the interviews you've done, you have said that every hotel is unique and has its own, set of, it has to have a unique approach depending on the hotel, location, what it's trying to achieve. But one of the major questions today is that, every property has gone through a shared experience which included losses, lockdowns, disruptions that don't seem to be ending anywhere at the moment across the world. Given this kind of shared experience, what would your view be? What is the kind of strategies or what is it that you would recommend or advise to get back on your feet?
I think looking at the current situation, the whole world is still, or the whole hospitality industry, to single it out, is still in great uncertainty. Hotels, they have a lifeline, a financial lifeline, but there's no limit to it. There's a limit to it. It depends now when really the country's open, when really people are allowed to travel again. Nobody knows right now. I mean, there's a few countries opening up. Greece, for example, would be one of them. where they allow foreign travelers to come back in again. But this will more or less be a pilot project for the world to see how it works and what the results are afterwards. I think if you have no access to if you're a hotel which lives off foreign clientele, and you don't know, the airport's not open or the people are not allowed to travel to your country right now, I think the principle always goes back to your most loyal market first. And look at who the most nearby loyal client you have and start there as a starting point. If you are in the country, and I've preached this 1,000 times, if you haven't taken care of your local market over the years since you are successfully catering to foreigners, you will be left behind because they will not come to you just because you're suddenly in need of tapping into the domestic market. Those people or those hotels or those assets who have taken care of their own people over the years, they will now reap the awards from that. And this goes for any country in the world right now. And start from the basics again. Start with those things which are accessible to you and which are within reach. It doesn't help if you dream from H&I from New York if he is not allowed to leave his country or get stuck somewhere along the way or is put under the pressure of a quarantine. If you would like to travel to people they have enough. They don't want to be more in more quarantines, and they will branch out first close by.
That's a very interesting thing you said over there, that if hotels have not catered to the domestic market and have depend on on a foreign traveler, they could be in trouble. You also headed the Leela Palace New Delhi. While the domestic travelers to these hotels have been increasing as the affluence increases, yet a large percentage of their travelers used to be foreign travelers, particularly in the luxury segment. How do you think that the Indian hospitality industry, given that it had, to some extent, maybe I'm wrong, you could correct me, but to some extent ignored the domestic traveler, how do you think that would affect the Indian luxury hospitality segment?
Well, I think it's twofold, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, obviously. I lived 7 years in India, so I think I have a small understanding of its culture and how the whole thing works. And have been around in so many places around the world over the years. I happen to be always in the right time when the country or the continent started to lift off. I was in Europe and Europe started to lift off. I went to America, America started to lift off. I went then to Asia. Asia came into itself and started traveling and stuff like that. And now it's in India. In India, I think there's two things. Number one, India is in the infant stages of travel, in my opinion. And those who can travel, they're going to go as overseas first. They branch out in the nearby countries in Asia, fly to the Maldives and everything else. Then they go to Europe, and once they've seen Asia and Europe, they go to America and go to other places which are further away. So I don't think that domestic travel at this point is on top of mind for Indian travelers within the country, unless they want to escape to Jaipur, they want to have a quick weekend escape to Udaipur, they go down to Goa for a little family vacation. For hotels, I think pricing was an issue. They also thought I was the foreigner pays more than the domestic guest. I think this is completely incorrect. An Indian guest pays probably 5 times more in London for a shoebox size room than he pays for a 60 square meter room in New Delhi or somewhere else, So, but again, Indians don't want to spend in India. They are very, very conscious about, they have a great value perception what they get for the money. So I think the hotel industry in India needs to shift the mindset a little bit to really attract those customers. And then most importantly, once you have an Indian customer in your house, you better treat him like a Maharaja or Maharani, because it's the first thing an Indian customer will look at you when he stays with you and comes to your hotel is, what's the comparison between me and the foreigner being treated in a hotel? And I've seen this in Asia everywhere. I've seen this in other countries as well. I've seen this in Singapore, for example, in the early days when the foreigner came to the door and everybody said, "Oh, welcome to the hotel." And the Singaporean came to the door and there was nothing, correct? And I had to change that. And it's very, very important for me. I did this also in Leela Palace. I changed that. When I first saw that this old couple come in with their children, and this old man, he already was intimidated when he came into my lobby, when he walked through my revolving doors, and I looked at him and I smiled at him, and he looked at me and he smiled back, and the smile is universal. And then immediately we became comfortable with other best friends, and we treated him like a Maharaja and his family afterwards. And these are the people you want, because they go back afterwards and they will give the word of mouth, and they will tell you that you are a customer-friendly hotel or place afterwards.
So the other thing that everybody talks about is that given the post-COVID shock, the shock of COVID that we've gone through, people will probably not want somebody hovering about them, around them. They would want to be left alone. They would want a little bit of seclusion, and with all those technology that has come into remote check-in and all of that. Does the theory of Maharaja Maharani still hold at this moment? Would it still hold? Would it endure? Do you think this is just a blip, and Indian consumers will go back to saying, "Oh, I want to be treated like royalty, so I want people around me, and I want everything done right there in front of me"?
The principle of being left alone is not a new one. That's already 1,000 years old. In our business, it's called invisible service. I don't want to have, even now, before COVID, I don't want to have a waiter standing over me and looking into my plate while I'm having dinner with my friends or with family or with my business partners, or involve me in conversation I don't want to really have because I just got off the plane at 3:00 in the morning. So it's the right. This comes with training afterwards. How you train people to all the different profiles which are walking through your door. Technology, it's a great thing, but hotels have generally been dinosaurs in adapting to it. It's so old-fashioned. If they have a new system, it's great. Most of them don't know what to do with it afterwards, because they've one IT manager taking care of all the new apps and the new functionality systems they have, and this is just enough. There must be a whole new set of departments addressing this new wave of apps or systems or technology a hotel is afterwards to offer. The thing is, once you offer a lot of self check-ins and ordering with your iPad and whatever it is, you take away a lot of touch points which were there before. So the guy can't say, "Would you like a basket of naan with your meal?" I mean, you actually need to find it on God knows what page on your app and then click on it because you want it. And then of course even apps are very complicated at this point. They're not very user friendly, and very often they're written by people who don't really understand the business, and the content is not really tailored towards the business where you're selling it to your customers afterwards. So I think it will take another few years. There's a few companies, a few hotels in the world which are well advanced on that. If we just look at the young generation, they are already growing. I mean, Generation Alpha is growing up. I think they're born with a phone in their hand. You know what I mean? So they do anything on the phone. There's nothing. They don't even know how to open the door anymore by themselves. But they will be the ones who actually will innovate how hotels afterwards operate when it comes to these kind of systems afterwards. But don't forget, hotels, you have a mixed bag of clients. You have so many different generations of so many different age groups, and so many different cultures and races and beliefs and everything else. There is no app in the world which is a cookie cutter app which fits all of them. So that's what I'm saying. Somebody needs to put some thought into that and put the proper think tank to it before he talks to a company who writes him this app afterwards to make it user friendly. I remember years ago when iPads and stuff like this came into or even before the iPads, when you had a light panel in your room, in your suite, in the most expensive hotels in the world, to switch on the lights everywhere. You can even flush a toilet with the panel. But the problem is people didn't know how to use it. They were used to the switch where they know light goes on, light goes off, correct? And now this poor couple is standing in front of this panel and sleep at night with the light on because they just don't know how to switch it off. So, and this is hotels. This is a typical story for hotels implementing stuff where somebody thinks, I'm a genius, put stuff in a room, and afterwards nobody knows how to operate it.
I agree with that. Some of it can be confounding, and you really have to look around. Luke, have you worked with in the last year or something, or at the moment, are you working with hotels opening up or looking to open up? Are you helping them to strategize the road ahead? Do you want to talk about one or two projects that you're working on that will give us a fair idea of, how things are
Yeah,
opening
actually,
up?
yeah, actually, I launched my company only a couple of months ago officially. So because obviously Austria is very strict with licenses and everything else. So it had and coming from India, I had a lot of things I didn't have before. I'm not on the ground. So just about to be finished writing a masterclass for customer service excellence. I'm sure it's going to be a massive hit. It's not one of those wishy-washy ones. It's something where you have put really some thought into it and packed 30 years and the next 30 years of knowledge into it. So I think it's written for the 21st century people, staff. So I think this was something I will take with me afterwards. Besides telling the owners how to run the hotels, obviously also help the generations who work in this hotel or in this asset or in this resort understand, what they're actually dealing with when it comes to looking at the guest over the counter or looking at the guest just arriving at the table or occupying the room.
If I were to ask you from your past experience, as a hotelier yourself, I mean, as a person who led hotels from the front, what is it that you feel, hoteliers miss out while strategizing for their hotel, whether it is synergizing between the, I know in your book, you've also written about how synergies are not established between departments, operations not smoothed out. What is it in your view that, hoteliers face to focus on while planning the entire operations and synergies?
I think number one mistake, and I think also you can talk about any hotelier or any GM or even the best of the best, they always, how to say, many of them fail to see what's right in front of them. And right in front of them is the people. Even if you're the best hotelier in the world, you're only the best because the people got you there. So you need to take a look first at who's in front of you, who works with you. And this goes from your director of finance to the gardener. It goes from your director of food and beverage to your toilet cleaner. They are all equally important. My style always was a flat line management. There's no such thing as one is more important than the other. Yeah, we have different uniforms, we have different roles. But at the end of the day, we're all here for one thing, which is customer service. And a GM needs to, or a leader or somebody who runs a business unit, when it comes to customers, who is in the customer service business, he needs to understand that. If he has one weak link in his team, he can fail just with one person. It's to understand that, and he needs to be long-term committed. If he comes and he has a 2-year contract, it doesn't mean he can have a short-term thinking of just 2 years if the business is there to prolong for the next 5, 10, 100 years. So, Leela Palace, I knew what Captain I built there was not a hotel. It was a legacy. You know what I mean? It's there for the next 100 years. So let's make sure you put the systems in place, which someone who comes after you, hopefully can continue or will continue, so that this investment, this property can really reap its awards down the road.
Would you want to talk about some of the systems that you put into place, some, the strategies that you adopted as a hotelier anywhere in the world? Is there something that you would like to refer to, tell us about, so that we understand a little better how to innovate, to create new revenue streams, to keep the hotel, to keep the asset not just profitable, but also talked about and admired?
Yeah, it's a big question though.
Sorry, do you want me to break it into two?
Strategies, I think strategies are always location specific. You know what I mean? you can't just bring something with you which might have been successful in London. It might not work in New Delhi. I think the first thing you need to do is wherever you start, wherever you go, is to get up to speed as quickly as possible with your domestic and your international target audience. And only then you can start strategizing with things you might don't have it or things you can bring to the table, because obviously you have the experience, hopefully, to lead a team and inspire them and guide them to come up with the right things, or even teach them and train them. I consider myself a great mentor and teacher when it comes to all level of stuff, you need to, innovation in a hotel is a big word. I don't think there's many innovations in a hotel, even over the last few decades. I think, and for myself also, I don't call myself an innovator. I call myself more a creator and somebody who maybe reinvents things if I feel that I can do better than what I have right now presented in front of me. I love to challenge. I love to challenge the status quo. I think even if you're the best, there's always better. So you need to, and I've been a leader on the benchmark before, and if I would have rested on my laurels each year, then I'm sure nobody would even know I exist anymore. You know what I mean? And you just can't. If you are a benchmark, or you call it the best of the best, whatever you want to call it, you need to strategize already 2 years before you become that way, what you're going to do in the year after, because people will copy you very, very quickly if they see something successful. But the issue is, even if somebody copies you or you copy something, 100%, it will never be better than the original. You know what I mean? So that's why I always told my teams wherever in the world, don't copy, look at it, make it better, make it yours, and then you roll it out. Obviously, you need to test it first, and you need to give it a trial period, whatever it is, and then you really put your effort and your money and your whole weight behind it with whatever strategy you have afterwards. And sometimes be bold. I remember I was in Singapore and with this huge event coming up. It was the first F1 Grand Prix in Singapore, so all the hotels was jumping for joy. Of course, a year in advance, they all tripled their room rates and everything else. So then afterwards, 6 months before the race was coming, half the city was empty because people didn't want to pay this price. So, which goes with any Olympics or anything else. I mean, it's always the same around the world, everywhere. Anyway, so I remember my owner said to me, I need to drop the prices and everything else. And I said, listen, I'm not outpriced myself. Let me do what I want. 2 ways. If I make it, please, I want to thank you. And if I don't make it, you can fire me. And he smiled and he took the challenge. And then, well, at the end of the day, when Formula One, the inaugural Grand Prix came, myself and another hotel were the only 2 hotels which had 100% occupancy. And I still today have the highest average rate in Singapore because I had the idea. It was nothing innovative, but I had these 2 suites with a balcony, with an open balcony, which was a joint balcony, looking at the racetrack in a really good position. And instead of selling it, I said to my director of sales and marketing, I want to auction that. He's like, auctioning a suite? I said, yeah, I want to auction it. And we did. It was great. I mean, I can make so much money with them. So it's again, it's said you need to be in the situation. You need to evaluate what your market is. You need to be able to look into the future. This is the most important thing. If you're blindsided and you just live into the day, many strategies will not work afterwards. So you need to see what's coming towards you. You need to see in which direction the waves are moving, and hopefully you have the right mindset and make the right decisions to whatever strategies you put in place, that they move along with it afterwards, and you can reap the awards afterwards.
Absolutely. So every time you talk to a GM today, at least in India, and every time you speak to a hotelier, they say, oh, things have changed. So, there's more emphasis on, of course, hygiene, which for a luxury hotel should always have been and has always been.
If a hotel is not in the hotel, I don't understand that. I mean, hotels were the mountain of hygiene. You know what I mean? If somebody says I do better than I did before, wow, I shouldn't have stayed there in the first place. I don't understand this whole statement.
So there's this whole thing where we have, collaborated with this one, these big tech companies to create a more hygienic kind of an atmosphere. So there's this whole thing, conversations about that. The other conversations is about, this whole technology bit that has kind of, seemingly changed. There's always this debate whether it is important for, when actually hotels open up completely, is it important to get that people-to-people connection? You meet your guest relation officer, or you probably meet the lobby manager or whatever that, the whole thing that happens when you check into a hotel. So will technologies, overrule that kind of interaction? Then this whole thing about how F&B has changed in hotels, this whole thing about delivering luxury experience, dining experience at home with different hotels, at least in India that we have been reporting, experimenting with different formats of F&B, creating the whole dining experience at home. Which of course is not possible. When you go to a hotel, the experience is completely different in what if they send you food over. 2 years down the line, when we would have hopefully not forgotten, but at least, put this whole trauma behind us, and, how much of this will stick? Are we going to actually radical changes which will stick, or are we going to go back to, people-to-people interaction? I want to meet the guest manager, I want to dine in a restaurant. I don't want them to send me food home. How much will stick? How much will fall down the line along the way?
Well, I've been in China during the SARS period. So obviously, I thought this was a big thing, in those days. But then when COVID came, I also thought first that COVID will come and go as quickly as SARS did. But obviously, it spread and it affected the whole world. So obviously I was wrong in that assumption. But the thing is, if I use SARS as which was mainly in Asia, if you use this as a template, people forget extremely quickly. You know what I mean? Except those which obviously have had massive losses in their families and everything else. They will obviously be scarred for life. And then nobody knows how they will return to formality if you have lost ones in the family. But I think for other ones, they forget very quickly. They want back the old life, but technology will stay, But it's not because of hotels. Technology will evolve over and over again as it has the past 10 years and everything else. And people need to adapt to it. When it comes to dining, I can order a chicken tikka from any food delivery service in New Delhi for 150 rupees. And it probably tastes equally good than the chicken tikka I get in the same container, an aluminum container with the paper thing on top of it, for 2,500 rupees, just because it comes from a fancy hotel. This is something I don't understand. And I think, unless I'm wrong, I don't think many hotels in India or anywhere in the world have fared well when it came to jumping, as usual, extremely late on the food delivery wagon, because they don't have an infrastructure for that. They don't have 100,000 tuk-tuks where they can dispatch the drivers immediately. They have one room service guy probably slaving all day long trying to handle those 5 or 10 orders. So I don't really believe in food service deliveries for hotels unless they have a very unique product and there's demand for it. Technology and everything else, hotels need to change. People still want to have a touch point, especially when they have some issues. They don't want to talk to a junior, they want to talk to somebody senior. I feel sorry always for IT managers, An IT manager is somebody who gets called into the guest room if the guest has an issue with his electronic device. But the thing is, this poor IT manager has never seen an iPhone 13. He has never seen the latest model of an iPad. How in the world should he know how to help this customer? He still has his old little laptop, which is now 10 years old. Do you know what I mean? Why can't hotels equip those people with the latest models as soon as they come out? They can get ready. It doesn't cost much. It's a one-time investment. But giving this guy a chance that when he afterwards walks into the room, say, listen, it's just this button. Every time you have a problem and the guy comes and he's like, oh, let me check. And if someone says, let me check, then already your hair sticks up in your neck. You know what I mean? Because you probably can figure it out faster than he did. Like I always did. I always was faster than my own IT manager, you know. But I felt sorry for him, and I didn't have the means to buy him new iPhones and new iPads and new Androids and whatever it is as soon as they came on the market. I think people need to adapt. I think people, when they fly in nowadays or anywhere in the world, hey, sometimes it's easier to put a Siri or an Alexa on top of the concierge desk because they can give a better answer than the concierge itself. You know, and people have evolved. You know, I'm better informed when I fly into a destination with what I Google or what I see on my apps or what I see on my phone before I reach the place there. And if I ask the concierge afterwards a question about a certain thing, which I already know what it is, and he gives me, oh, let me check, and he Googles afterwards, the same thing, I have an issue with that. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. I think, especially when it comes to luxury hotels or luxury hotels and resorts, they take a good look at the organizational chart. Maybe it's time to reinvent. Scratching numbers of a staffing guide is no rocket science. Everybody can do that. You know what I mean? But completely creating new positions and new departments, and this is a science. You know, make a business more efficient and more effective and more customer friendly. Being able to actually adapt to God knows what, those 15, 20 profiles, I mean, there's probably 100 profiles out there who come towards you. You know, the first ones are baby boomers, the second ones are Generation X, the next ones are Generation Z. Then you have the millennials have the kids in the tow with the Generation Alpha and everything else. Staff is not equipped to handle all those different kind of guests on one platform. So it's people will snap back to normality. I'm pretty confident on that. Hygiene and everything else, as I said before, it just bothers me if a hotel says, "Oh, I'm cleaning my rooms now," but I mean, it really, really, really bothers me. Technology, when it comes to air cleansing and everything else, this I'm totally for it. You know, that I know that the air which comes into my facility is double, triple, quadruple filtered, that it's absolutely pure. You know, and especially I know India, we always had this issue with as soon as the autumn started or late autumn started, you know what I mean, the press tear us apart, you know what I mean? I just saw a picture yesterday, I think on an international newspaper, showing a picture from November with the haze and the smog on the India Gate, and then clear sky, correct? And I'm like, listen, buddy, it's nothing to do with no cars on the road. It has to do with summer. In summer, the sky is always clear. But again, he was, I don't know, he was a foreign correspondent telling the world, and people read that stuff. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's clear blue sky in Delhi all year long, all summer long. And when it gets colder, it pushes it down when the fires come down from north. But that's a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of people not taking the time to really talk to the right people, to give them the right information, which they share afterwards with a huge audience which believe in them. So, but cleaning, absolutely. It will change. I don't think so. I think nobody will wear masks after that again. People want to have conversations, but they will be very, very critical. You know, they will challenge you more than they have challenged you ever before, your guests. You know, they want to make sure that you are flawless, that especially you deliver on what you're promising afterwards. If they see one promise not met, they're going to come after you in a big way.
Well, Louis, we are used to having countries across the world. What is the big difference about running a hotel in India and running a hotel in some other countries? I mean, of course, there will be a difference between running a hotel in Singapore or running it in Europe, because we are different people, different cultures. But literally, I am an Indian. We are an Indian company. So what we want to know is, what's the big difference between, you know, heading a hotel in India and heading it anywhere else, maybe Singapore?
You know, I've been asked this question so many times, and it's not just in India, but also when I come to another country. Absolutely nothing is different. Absolutely, this is my opinion, and I'm very certain about my opinion on that one here. It's still a people's business. You know, you're in a different location. The principles are exactly the same. You have a facility, a nice one, a very luxurious one, depends where you're able to work. And the people are the people. You have the people who work with you, and you have the people who stay or come to you to use your facilities. The customer service principle remains the same. The only thing you don't do is, if I come from Singapore, I bring my Singaporean culture with me into India and hope it's like that. It doesn't work that way. You can bring it. I can't bring my culture to America. I can't bring my culture to any other part in the world. I have to tap to where I am in the world. And India is the same. It's the same. It's nothing different. You have people, you have guests, you have your welcome, you have your guest anticipation, you have your farewell. So no difference whatsoever in India.
Also, the one question that since you were associated with the Leela Palace New Delhi, and that's home to two marquee restaurants. What is your opinion about creating and running marquee restaurants in hotels? More importantly, what I would like to ask you is, we are so focused on getting international chefs to open restaurants within luxury hotels in India. We ourselves have such amazing chefs, whether it's Chef Rahul Akirkar or Chef Manish Mehrotra. Do you think if Indian hotels required marquee restaurants, they would be better off focusing on the Indian, fine dine space from where they could pick up some big names, brand names, rather than looking internationally for collaborations and for opening restaurants that draw in people just by the name of the chef and the name of the reputation of the restaurant?
You're stirring a sensitive nerve in me with this one here, because I'm an F&B by heart. So marquee restaurants are dead since the past 20 years in hotels. Marquee restaurants is a thing of a gone by area, unless you are in Las Vegas, you're in Paris, London, or New York. There you still have a clientele which actually comes and fills these restaurants for you, because there's a critical mass there. Manish, I love Manish Mehrotra. He's my hero when it comes to the chefs in India, because he was changing things, very successfully. But I think since then, nobody in India has been able to compete with him at that level or that successfully. So he might doesn't know we know each other, we are friends, but he's my hero when it comes to Indian cuisine. India itself, I don't think you need marquee restaurants. I think you have such a huge culture of food in India. Start at home first. Do you know what I mean? Challenge your chefs to branch out, to diversify what they're doing there. Create your own marquee restaurants in India first. 60% of the population eats vegetarian. A 3 Michelin-star chef from France, he maybe has 2 vegetarian dishes in his repertoire. He doesn't even know anything about the vegetables. He doesn't even know anything about the massive world of spices available to you, like you have in India, or even worse, putting them correctly together to make a dish out of that. You know what I mean? I think you have a handful of exports in India already, which you export to Bangkok and other places, even America now so on. I think start at home first, and then take a look what after a while what the population of India desires or acquires in terms of tastes, what they want afterwards, and then you can bring if the international chefs come to you, because right now an international chef will not come to you except maybe for a guest chef visit, because he knows he has no access to products and everything else. Import restrictions are a huge handicap, and I know because I had 2 specialty restaurants myself. I know how hard it was for us to acquire fresh products, farm products, which are just not available in the country. So bringing foreign chefs in, unless it's an Italian chef who only needs noodles and a few tomatoes, it's going to be really, really tough to get those people in. So I don't think you need that. I think start first in your own garden, in your own country. Wine, for example. Wine is just starting in India. It's huge. You can imagine once India starts drinking wine. I've seen it in Asia when Asia started drinking wine in the 90s. It was amazing. Amazing. And then China came in 2000 onwards. Suddenly there was not enough wine in this world to meet all the demand for all those people. And they started drinking top down. They started drinking expensive stuff first, and then they worked their way downwards. Do you know what I mean? Start cultivating first. But I think India has so much potential for their own restaurants. Fast food service or fast service restaurants like here, Jamie Oliver and those places you find in the shopping malls, they will succeed at the moment. They will be the restaurant style which will survive for the next, or will bridge you for the next 10 years, let's say short term, before somebody comes in overseas, before the people on the ground tell you, listen, I want, I don't know, Thai cuisine, or I want proper Chinese cuisine, or whatever it is. But the only restaurants which are full every single day in India are Indian restaurants.
Great. And, an important question is, what would your advice today be to aspiring hoteliers, to people who are just joining the industry, people who are unsure about how things will evolve, how things will look, people who are still in hospitality schools and colleges? There seems to be a lot of despondency. There is also a lot of, job losses have happened. Nobody knows how this is going to happen. So what would you advise to future hoteliers?
I think for the young ones who just came out of college, I only can tell them it's a wonderful business. It's different every day. It's fulfilling if you have the right job and you work hard for it, to get where you want. But believe in it. You know what I mean? For the young champs and everything else, I can recommend talk to your owner and hire me quickly for a week, and I get you up to speed and I cut out 20 years of hard learning for you, and get you in the right direction. Stay with the times. You know what I mean? I think the young generation is doing a great job. They want to reach the top a little bit faster than we wanted. We tried to put the foundation at first before we build a house on top of it. They are building the house right away without the foundation, which sometimes is dangerous for hotels because they can, especially those which have been in the system for a while and have done very well, they can fall off the cliff very quickly with that. When somebody comes in full of energy, impatient, wants to push his way forward really quickly, it's very dangerous because again, you're dealing with the human aspect. You're dealing with people and sometimes they're not able or not willing to go as fast as you are unless you are a leader, and this requires a little bit of time to get there, to get this knowledge and get this the status in yourself where people are actually willing to follow you, So just get knowledgeable, get up to speed as fast as you can with what's going on around you and what the markets are and what the people need, and then move forward with it.
Okay, Louis, for some fun questions now. Give us your favorite hotels in India and give us your favorite hotels in the world. I mean, just be a little biased and tell us which are the hotels, properties that you rank the highest in your estimate?
To be honest with you, I haven't traveled much in India because it didn't let me out much in the hotel. So, but I have seen a few. I must say, there's quite a few nice hotels in India. I do like the Oberoi in New Delhi, which looked quite nice after its renovation. If I have to single one out, it would be Rambagh Palace in Jaipur. I think this was the only hotel I walked in, and obviously being extremely critical when it comes to luxury hotels, where I could feel the uncompromised level of quality. This was really, really nice. Wherever you walked, wherever you looked, you could sense, quality in this place. And it really impressed me, and I've seen a few other palaces in India and stuff like this. And I don't want to brag about the list of flaws I could see and everything else. But Rambagh definitely tops my list when it comes to a top hotel in India, of course, besides my one when I was there. For the world, it used to be 3 hotels in the world which I was extremely fond of. One was Raffles Hotel in Singapore, one was the Peninsula in Hong Kong, and one was the Mandarin Oriental in Bangkok. They were all grand dams. They represented the epitome of luxury when it comes to history and tradition and being real hotels. I think other hotels would be, I think the new Fullerton Hotel Bay, the Fullerton Bay Hotel in Singapore, which is right opposite the casino on the bay. In America, Pelican Hill, if you ever have been in California, in between Los Angeles and San Diego, there's Laguna and there's Newport Beach. Pelican Hill is also, again, and I judge a lot of hotels by quality when I touch the stone and when I look into those places. Who else do I have there? I think as a Rosewood in Hong Kong, Rosewood is coming very strong. I like Rosewood. I think Miss Chang is doing a great job of revamping this brand and putting some really beautiful properties around the places on the globe here. And Bulgari in Milan is one of my favorites. And I've been to, normally when I go into cities, it's called city shopping, which means at least one day I take a day out and I do nothing else, then go from hotel to hotel in specific time period. So in the evening, I would go and have a cocktail in every 5-star hotel in the city to really see how it feels. And I must say, Milan, I've been there now a few times, and the Bulgari impressed me all the time compared to all the other 5 stars in the city. And I think as a fun overall hotel would be the Bellagio in Las Vegas. You know, here you have everything. You know, it's not super luxury, but just has everything you need. You know, it has great restaurants, it has great leisure facilities, great restaurants. People are very well trained there. It's great functionalities. So this would be right now the few hotels I'm still very fond to visit.
What about hotels in your own home country? I remember when I traveled to Austria, there were two things that, which I found very, one were, the absolutely minimal kind of aesthetics, but then you also have a lot, some amount of heritage hotels, which were opulent, and there was also a reference to royalty, and there was, when you travel across, there's sometimes, reference to royalty and your famous queen. So who can forget Sissy?
But it's quite fun. I've been gone 30 years from Austria. It's only COVID that we decided to come back and back to the roots and full circle and start, the next chapter in our lives. I'm actually surprised how the hotel industry has evolved, but it's not. You couldn't compare it like on an international level. It's very unique. It's very personal. But there's some pretty stunning properties sitting on the mountains and on different places in Austria. So I must say, and they're well thought out. And obviously, you can see that the young generation or the second generation has taken the helm. And they've done some really beautiful things with it. I've been to Vienna a few times since I'm here. Vienna hasn't changed much. Seems to be a few modern style hotels and everything else. The old Sachas and all the imperial palaces and all those places, they're still there. They still look the same. I don't really, I've been in there, but it doesn't really look any different or any upgrades or anybody has brought some fresh air into it or new life into the place. But still, you have this feeling. I mean, obviously, you still know you're in a big city, which was imperial, where the cakes and the coffees and everything else was invented in those days, So it's gorgeous. But Austria for me is obviously a stepping stone. It's very central for me to fly out. In half an hour I'm in Frankfurt, and then the world is at my doorstep afterwards. So it's easy for me to go east. It's easy for me west. So that's why we chose to be here instead of staying back in Asia. Well, it's quite nice. I must say, there's really nice places around here.
So Louis, just one more question. What will bring you back to India to work and travel? And if you were to come back to India at some point, hopefully we'll get our act together and open a lot more safely. But what would bring you, would you consider coming back here, working with hotels here? Do you see potential for the hospitality industry in India to really evolve into world class? And when you come back, I will not say if, when you come back, what would be your favorite destinations to go to when you're in the country?
Yeah. No, I think the hotel industry and tourism in India is still in its baby steps. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we all know it takes takes two to tango. So I think the government needs to be a little bit more pro tourism and help the hoteliers to fill the hotels and actually foster tourism into the country. I think India has a huge potential. Absolutely, it's mind-boggling. It just needs to be tapped into. I will definitely be back. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. Not on a permanent basis. It's off my checklist, but definitely on a project basis wherever I'm needed. If I go back, I will go back because of my people. The people who worked with me and together, they're very close to my heart. They're my family. I'd love to see them again, to see how they have evolved and how the families have grown and everything else. And then places to visit in India, wherever you build the next uber luxury hotel, I want to see it. So definitely, this will be location specific for me where the next best hotel will be built or is about to be built. Then I think when I'm a little bit older, then I will take some time and actually take an easy, longer journey and explore the country for a few weeks in a row afterwards.
We hope to see you back here in the country and explore it a little more. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for this wonderful conversation, and it was a pleasure catching up with you.
It was fun. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Bye,
day.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.